Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Ever get the feeling in retirement that the more you make, the more they take? Well, stay tuned as I explain the 3 ways they take more of your money and how you can keep more of your money in your pocket.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and 6-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
One of the most upsetting financial feelings for savers is working hard one's whole life to save for retirement, but then as the magical date arrives to retire, the world begins to take away from the saver what the saver worked so hard to save while working. This is particularly obvious when it comes to our nation's progressive tax system, which basically says the more you make, the more they take. And with the year 2025 fast approaching and the thought of some of the lowest tax rates in history set to expire, is it any wonder that savers are more worried than ever that taxes may go back to higher levels not seen in years? And it's not just progressive taxes that fall into this category of the more you make, the more they take. Increasing fees charged on investment accounts, as well as the offsets to Social Security payments and Medicare when you make more money, are all evidence that the more you make, the more they take. Which is why today I'm going to focus on the 3 biggest culprits that take our money from us and how our work at Tony Walker Financial is helping more and more savers keep more and more of their money in their proverbial pockets. So let's get started. Well, welcome folks to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, tax, fee, and Social Security savings expert and financial fiduciary, Tony Walker. And before we show you how to avoid the more that you make, the more they take syndrome, let me introduce 2 young lads in the Worry-Free Production Studios, America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, and Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek. Wait a minute, Aaron, where's Derek?
Well, that's a really good question. I have no idea where he is. I'm sure he's just stuck in traffic or something. I'm sure he's on his way.
Anyway, the theme of our show today of the more you make, the more they take is really not that complicated. Here's how it works. The more successful we are at working hard and saving hard, the easier it is for those with access to our money to take more of it. And in the end, sometimes may not be working in our best interest. Take that tax-infested 401k of yours. While you're slaving away at work and putting as much as you can into this 401k, what is going on inside it? Well, for one, since you're deferring taxes you will owe at a later date, something is growing inside that 401k I refer to as the tax tumor. And unlike the bodily tumors we might have that die when we die, the tax tumor does not. In fact, when you die, this tumor gets passed off to the next generation and they'll have to deal with it. As well, inside this 401k is a large financial institution that is charging fees on your money with no guarantees that this money will last as long as you do. And finally, with the 401k plan, there is no coordinated game plan on how and when to spend this money, nor any type of exit strategy for getting out of the darn thing. As I always say, while the 401k might be a convenient and good way to save for the future, it's a terrible tool for planning and spending your money in it. So, depending on your overall income taxes, the taxes you will also owe to Uncle Sam could be as high as 40% at that time when you go to take it out. So now, shocked at the prospect of having to pay all these taxes, what do most savers do? Well, they delay the pain by paying taxes later and just trying to defer it in hopes that they will go away, which of course they won't. Folks, this is crazy and no way to create and enjoy what we call a worry-free retirement. Yet, as we'll learn today, there is hope as we make sense of the more you make, the more they take, and how we at Tony Walker Financial can help you keep more of your hard-earned money in your pocket. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Did you realize that if you have more than $250,000 in retirement assets, the government could tax as much as 40% of it when you go to take it out? And with current tax rates set to expire in 2025, the taxes you will owe on your 401k could climb even higher. Don't wait until 2025 to see how much Uncle Sam will take of your money. Get a game plan by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com. One of the most confusing things in the world is the U.S. tax code and the laws associated with it. Not only is it confusing to savers, but it is also punitive in the way people are taxed for their hard work and success. It is called the progressive tax system, which just is a nice way of saying that the more you make, the more they take. But there is a slight ray of hope right now to try to keep more of your money in your pocket. That's because between now and the year 2025, assuming you are retired or nearing retirement and have at least $250,000 or more of pre-tax retirement assets stashed away, savers who act now can take advantage of some of the lowest tax rates in history. In fact, in 2024, these low tax rates will be even lower thanks to inflation. That's right, folks. While we were all spending more at the grocery store and the gas pumps due to the cost of goods and services, the IRS is doing their part by increasing the tax thresholds for how they compute the taxes you will owe on any retirement savings accounts you decide to take out and spend, which is a good thing. For instance, here are the current 2023 tax rates and the brackets. Notice where the brackets creep up as you make more and more money. Now let's take a look at the 2024 brackets with this built-in inflation increase, and again notice that the rates at which you're taxed, those income limits have been lifted up higher, meaning you should pay less in taxes. Not bad. In addition to tax-saving strategies such as those offered by Tony Walker Financial, as we say on TV, wait, there's more. In addition to income limits being indexed for inflation, so is the standard deduction, which also gets a nice little bump. Again, a good thing as well. And as our own tax-certified specialist in our Bowling Green office, TJ Reagan, explains, something you're probably going to be taking advantage of.
That's right, Tony. In 2024, the standard deduction will increase from its current 2023 amount of $27,700 to $29,200. And seeing as though most savers no longer itemize their deductions, this increase to the standard deduction plus the increase in the tax bracket income thresholds means savers should save some more money in taxes in 2024.
But it's not just taxes that fall into the more you make, the more they take. It's also fees charged by people like ourselves who are money managers, and also some other folks out there, the other guys who can even charge sometimes twice as much as what we charge at Tony Walker Financial. In fact, for the services we offer, we have some of the lowest fees in the industry that you can have charged to your account. But let's take a look at this. As you can see, the whole problem with this, the more you make, the more they take. In this example, this is a money manager charging 1.5% per year, and we went back into 2008 when the market tanked, and we took it all the way up to about 7 years just to see how much you would have made, assuming you were in the stock market, as compared to how much the money manager made at 1.5%. And what you see is basically you would have made about $26,000 over that 6 or 7 year period, while the money manager charging 1.5% would have made over $41,000. Again, it's a huge issue and why you need to keep these fees in check so you can keep others from taking more of your money. And finally, another issue is that of these current high interest rates offered by banks and insurance companies versus the falling bond prices that wreaked havoc for retirement accounts in 2022. Is there a problem rushing to the bank to buy CDs now, knowing that these rates will probably not stay this high and eventually go back down? Well, there is, but we at Tony Walker have found out a way to address this issue When I return, we'll have a special guest in the studio to talk about CDs, fixed interest annuities, and what's going on in the bond market and whether you should continue to hold bonds or not. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. I'm Tony Walker. We'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Our Tony in the Trenches comes to us from Rick in Louisville, who asks the following. Tony, I'm 64 years old, working part-time and drawing Social Security. I'm thinking of drawing money out of my 401k plan. Will those withdrawals increase taxes to my Social Security? Well, Rick, we have a ton of information on our YouTube channel at Tony Walker Financial, so I highly recommend you go there for the details for this type of a question. But basically, yes. In most cases, if you take money out of that tax-infested 401k or IRA plan, there's a good chance that the increased income will also throw your Social Security into a higher tax bracket, as you can see. In fact, we even took this example of a tax return with low Social Security taxes, basically based on income, and what happens when we throw additional income onto that tax return from that 401k plan. Notice, depending on your overall income taxes as well. In this example, more and more of the Social Security is taxed. So here's my advice. If you have more than $250,000 in a 401k, IRA, or other pre-tax retirement account, I would suggest arranging a free 10-minute phone call with myself to see if we can help lower those taxes on your money. To get that arranged, just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call us anytime at the toll-free number on your screen. Okay, our theme today is the more you make, the more they take, and nowhere is this more evident as to the effect that rising interest rates are having on savers who have previously owned bonds and the values of those bonds plummeting back in 2022. So to help us on this and to try to get a better understanding of bonds and CDs and fixed interest annuities, with us in the studio this morning, come on in, is my favorite nephew and fellow fiduciary, Mr. Wes Walker, who is not my son, by the way, right?
That's right. No, we just share the same last name. Your brother is my dad.
And your name is Wes, not Russ, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
I like it. Our clients will say, yeah, I met your son Russ the other day. So I love our clients. They're funny.
They're great, yeah. I'm Russ, and then Trey is Troy sometimes.
Yeah, Trey, Troy. Okay, let's start off this way. You're doing a great job, by the way, the investment department. I know you have to effectuate a lot of trades. You're helping pick out a lot of the selection. I mean, man, this caught us off guard in 2022, but what in the heck happened to the bond market in 2022?
Well, it's a wild ride, so we have to go back a little bit and just see what was going on with the economic environment back in 2022. So inflation was running rampant. I think in 2022, top-line inflation reached almost 9%, and the mechanism that the Federal Reserve uses to try to curb inflation, they'll raise interest rates. So if you're out trying to buy a house or a car, the interest rate's going to be higher, and that, in theory, should slow down economic activity because you might not buy that house, you might not buy that car, you might not start a business, you might not borrow any money. That's the idea behind them raising interest rates. So it affects the people who want to borrow money, but it also affects another group of people who have already lent money. So just as an example, let's say you had, and really anytime you lend money, that's what a bond is. So let's just say you had lent money to a corporation, i.e. you purchased a bond at 3%, say it's a 10-year bond, and you paid $100 for it. All of a sudden, new bonds come out and they're paying 5%. Again, assuming a 10-year bond, the present value of that bond now that interest rates have gone up is about $84. So that's kind of the problem that we had with bonds back in 2022.
84 per 100, is that
per
what you're saying?
100, yeah, exactly.
I see. Yeah.
So you've taken a loss on paper on the face value of your bond. So obviously then what happened was interest rates in 2022 went up. Everybody's holding these long-term bonds with a lower yield, and it just devalued them, I guess, in a sense.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
On paper,
the value of those bonds decreased dramatically. So let's say you kept that bond to its maturity in 10 years. Would you get all your original principal back?
All the face value, all the original principal you put in, plus all the interest that it would have earned in that time, you would have gotten that back with no risk.
Good explanation. So how did we react? Because we did. I think we were on top of this. It did catch us off guard at first because the interest rates went up so quickly. But how did we react to this issue with the bonds, and what 2 products did we introduce to our clients that have really been helpful to them?
Well, so in Schwab, what we did, we tried to shorten the duration of bonds. That's a key aspect to bond valuation, is how long they are. The longer a bond is, the more susceptible to fluctuations based on interest rates it is. So we tried to implement more short-term fixed income within Schwab. And then we also introduced new MYGAs, multi-year guaranteed annuities. They're really just fixed annuities, so they function similar to the way a CD at a bank would. You put the money in and it pays you a guaranteed rate of interest each year. And again, you don't have to worry about that, assuming that you hold it to maturity. So with rising short-term interest rates, we were able to do quite a few things to adjust to this. But that being said, there were definitely losses taken on bond positions.
And then we also introduced 2 new strategies, the CP and CD. You can tell everybody what those acronyms are, but we've also helped purchase through Schwab a ton of CDs for our clients who wanted those, correct?
That's right, yeah. So CP stands for capital preservation. The idea behind it, it's really just 4 separate money market funds. So it's like CDs, it's like cash in that it's completely liquid, but it's like CDs because it does have a higher yield. You can get the money whenever you need to without penalty. So it's been a good place to put money for that short-term bucket, that need now, if you do need to make one-time distributions and so forth. The other one is really a true certificate of deposit, or CD portfolio, where we have 1 or more CDs that earn a probably higher rate of interest than capital preservation. It's for a little bit of a longer term, and we're able to shop those as they come up for clients that want to be in that strategy.
And I think, Wes, the advantage of working with us at Tony Walker Financial, and I get it, people might say, well, I can just go down to the bank and get a CD. Why would I pay you all 0.8%? Is we know, I mean, from our experience, that these rates are not going to stay this high. They're basically going to probably come back down at some point. In fact, I know we've got some articles on this we might share in a minute, but really, what is that person going to do? If they just kind of go off on their own and try to get a CD, kind of tell folks what we're doing in terms of our thoughts on what interest rates might do and our position on CDs, bonds, and short-term interest rate annuities.
Well, if you run off to the bank and you put your money into a short-term CD, let's say it's a 1-year CD, a year from now, you're going to have to make a decision on what to do with that money when the CD proceeds come up for maturity. We don't know what interest rates will do in that 1-year period, but if they fall, so let's say the Federal Reserve decides, all right, inflation's good, we can take down these interest rates. Well, in that case, CDs aren't going to be paying as much anymore. And you're going to be left with a bank account, so to speak, and no one to really advise you on it. So that's where we step in, is we're able to really, come up with solutions for that maturing CD money a year from now. So although, yeah, you might be paying us a fee, there is more planning that goes behind those CDs that we purchased through Charles Schwab.
Well, that's the key. We're retirement planning specialists. Yeah, we have to charge what I think is a minimal fee for the amount of services we offer. But then we also have these MYGAs, multi-year guaranteed annuities. So the interest rates, I noticed JJ, who handles those, they're coming down a little bit. But like, for instance, as of the date of this recording, if somebody wants to lock in, if somebody's thinking, man, these rates are not going to stay high, we still have 5-year annuities that are locked in for almost 6%. I mean, that's pretty darn good. And unlike bonds, they're not subject to interest rate risk. Kind of tell people their reaction when clients call in and realize that, yeah, we can lock in money for 5 years with these annuities.
It's not a bad option at all. And usually the interest rates on the MYGAs, multi-year guaranteed annuities, are higher than what would be on like 5-year bonds or 5-year CDs. So you do get a little bit more interest as well. In Schwab, though, we've even advised some people with bonds, if they think interest rates are going to fall, to hang on to those, as bond values will go up if interest rates fall, the same way bond values went down when interest rates rose. So it's really a case-by-case dependent thing, and it takes somebody with some retirement planning, financial expertise to really make that decision and help you arrive at that decision.
And I think as our firm's grown, I think that's all we're trying to do. We're just trying to give our clients options, and more importantly, make them feel like they're at least in control of all this craziness that's going on. And of course, you all, the Schwab department, are doing a great job of that. We've got about a minute left. Aaron's kind of giving us the chop shop sign over here. This is going to be broadcast right before New Year's.
real quickly, moving into the new year, how do you feel about Tony Walker Financial and how we're trying to position ourselves to, again, give our clients a feeling of more control rather than less of it as we go into 2024?
Well, I think we're doing a great job. You've hired quite a bit of new service staff onto the roster there. I think the key differentiator between us and a lot of firms is that we hire more service staff than we do advisors. If you look at a lot of the government documents for different advisory firms, you'll see, yeah, they might have a ton of advisors, but they don't have a lot of service staff backing up behind the scenes to make all the things happen. RMD calculations, whether it be tax withholding, everything that really goes into making this all work. You've hired a lot of service staff to make that happen.
And even monitoring the plan. We do provide this written game plan. I've still yet to see it. Maybe they exist. I had 20 to 30 appointments every week. I still have yet to see anybody come in that wants a second opinion that has a written game plan like what we offer. None. So, Wes, bottom line, thank you so much for your work. We got to run here, doing a great job, and we really do look forward to 2024. So thanks again.
Myself as well. Thanks for having me, Tony.
You're welcome. Folks, we'll be right back.
Tired of the roller coaster ride of the stock market? Let Tony Walker show you how to smooth out the ride with your money. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started.
You've worked hard your entire life. Now, let us work hard for you. My name is Tony Walker, and if you're looking for a game plan that can provide you peace of mind, look no further. Whether it's rolling over your 401k plan, reducing risk, or just setting up a plan that includes mailbox money for life, we're here to help. To speak with me at no cost or obligation, just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and click on that Let's Get Started button or call the number on your screen. We look forward to talking with you soon. Years ago, I was struggling mightily to get a foothold in this business and keeping my family afloat. Lucky for me, my wife Susan was willing to work nights and weekends as a nurse to keep the family going while I tried to get my business off the ground. But then, in around 2006, things changed when my CPA, my accountant, called to let me know that as a result of my successful efforts the prior year, I would now owe a bunch of money in taxes.
That's too bad.
Sharing my frustrations over all these taxes I now owed with a well-known and very successful businessman, his response was as following. Tony, what you're experiencing is something called the success tax. So just be glad for your success, pay the tax, and keep moving ahead. In other words, I could choose to be angry about paying more than I thought was my fair share, or I could look at the taxes as evidence that I was making more money and doing more good for others, which led to this thought on my part, which simply says, paying more in taxes is the world's price for our success. Besides the advice of a successful businessman, I actually must give God all the credit for my new attitude and perspective about money and how I now react when others will in fact come and take it away from me. Here is what God's Word and the dealings with the financial world has taught me. Money is an imperfect and temporary tool created by man to transact business in man's economy. This money is not God's money, it's not my money, and it's not your money, it's the world's money, money controlled by a world system created by man and one that will not last. In reality, this world's system is quite the opposite of how God works. God works in perfection, and He always knows what's best for His children. You see, God does not create things that are imperfect and temporary. He creates things that last forever. The money you and I currently possess was never meant to be our money, as evidenced by the fact that we can't take it with us, nor always control who gets to take it from us. It was never meant to be ours. This is why the Bible refers to us as stewards of the money. We don't own it, but rather are stewards, and as such are examples to the world of how God views the temporary things of the world by hopefully not falling in love with it. Don't believe me that money is controlled by a world system? Just look at how easily the Fed could control at will our economy by simply moving the interest rate lever either up or down. This very action reveals how shaky the world's financial system truly is. The good news is, by God's grace, He allows us to be in control of our money and what we decide to do with it. As such, we are not to get too attached to the money knowing that we don't own it in the first place. Not only will the value of money be worth less over time, the sad truth is that after all of this work of stockpiling it, we must one day leave it to someone else to control. And since you can't take it with you and we all die broke, we are reminded that we own nothing of this world. And assuming you are a follower of Jesus Christ and led by God's Spirit, the good news is we are liberated from the bondage of this world system of money and the power it can have over us. So, armed with this newfound perspective on who rightfully created this thing called money, I'm now in control of what I have in my possession and also in control of how I react when others come to take what is rightfully theirs in the first place. For instance, I can control whether I throw up my hands and just accept taxes as they are and pay them, or I can be shrewd and pay no more in taxes than the law requires. I can observe the ways of the ant and work my tail off and save for the future, or I can choose to mimic the behavior of the prodigal son and blow it all on loose living. I can live by the old law and give a certain percentage each year to the church, or I can be led by a new law and a new spirit of liberality and give as I feel God is leading me to give, no matter how much that might be. And finally, I can get mad as a hornet thinking of the more I make, the more they take, or I can rejoice when others take the money I have in my possession as proof that it does not belong to me anyway. In summary, we can choose to be thankful for what we have and live each day as if it could be our last, or we can wake up each day in fear, clinging to this money as if it has some lasting internal value, which we know it does not. Well, here's my advice, friend. I know what I'm going to choose to do. The question is, do you? Well, are you ready to take control of the things you can control and try to keep more of this money in your pocket while you still can? The way we get started with this process of the worry-free retirement is called the 10-minute fiduciary phone call. And here's how easy it is to get started and learn more about the operation here at Tony Walker Financial and how we as retirement planning specialists help savers worry less about money. You can just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, and when you get there, you're going to click on that little red box to schedule your free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. Or if in fact you have an urgent matter and you just want to get started right away, just click on that Let's Get Started button, and we will arrange a meeting with you in person at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. Internet not your thing? No worries there. Just call the toll-free number on your screen 24/7, and we will arrange that phone call. And if it merits, again, we will be happy to meet with you in person at absolutely no cost to you whatsoever. So do it now, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or give us a call at the toll-free number on your screen. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program. We've enjoyed being with you, but you remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free and make it a good one.